In Spain, there is no respect for anything or anyone. Alvaro Morata said this is why he is happier outside of Spain, and he said this only days before leading his country to their 4th European Championship. The captain of the Spanish national team speaking so negatively about his country in a moment like that is odd. Alvaro Morata presents a curious case. If you look at his resume, you'll find multiple Champions Leagues, La Liga titles, Serie A titles, an FA Cup, and now a European Championship. Juventus, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, Chelsea. You'd think any striker that could manage to play for these clubs and then be invited back numerous times would have achieved some kind of legendary status, racking up roughly 200 million euros in transfer fees over a 10-year period. Yet, there are countless people that, if you were to ask what they think of him, would say they do not rate him at all. Perhaps it's the fact that he's played for so many clubs that he's never stuck around long enough to be loved by any, except for Juventus. The quote I started this video with isn't an isolated clapback by Morata. He can frequently be seen and heard complaining about how his treatment at many different teams across many different countries is unjust. It's likely one of the reasons why he eventually felt he had to leave Atletico Madrid to head for AC Milan in the 2024 summer transfer window. Believe it or not, in the 23-24 football season, Alvaro Morata had his best ever goal-scoring season to date. 21 goals in all competitions, and nobody can deny that he is a very talented player. And so, naturally, on an Instagram post from an Atletico Madrid fan page confirming his departure from the club, many expressed that they did not want to see him go. However, in a turn of events that I don't think many expected, the man himself hopped into the comment section saying, "Now I can't leave, but after Dortmund you all wanted to kick me out?" in reference to a Champions League match where Borussia Dortmund knocked Atletico out. So what's the actual story here? Is it a case of blatant mistreatment, or are we all missing something? Hello everyone, truly hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to the channel. For Alvaro Morata, the story started in 1992. Born in the heart of Madrid, his story follows familiar stories of this nature. He was a football fanatic, essentially playing football since he could crawl. His father, Alfonso Morata, was once a very prominent figure in Spanish media, once holding a position as a commercial director for Spanish radio networks Cadena SER and COPE. A small detail, but one that may potentially be important later in the video. At the age of 3, Morata enrolled in the Real Madrid Foundation. His grandfather wasn't too pleased about that though. Later in life, when Morata was indeed a Real Madrid player, he said, "If you ask me what I want to happen in an Atleti Madrid match, I would tell you that Atleti wins 3-2 and both goals are scored by my grandson." Despite this, he took a roundabout route to officially end up at the Bernabeu. First, he was enrolled with Atletico Madrid at 13 because the Vicente Calderón was closer to his home. Then he left to Getafe for 2 years, because he wasn't getting much game time, and then finally settled on Real Madrid in 2008. As we can see, this habit of jumping from club to club wasn't anything new. This man played for Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid before the age of 16. They were both technically his childhood teams, meaning that he could hypothetically say it's always been a dream to play for his childhood team and not need to specify. I say hypothetically, but I really mean literally. He did do that for both teams. Real Madrid is where he blossomed, quickly rising to become one of the most prominent talents in the country. 6'3", fast, knows how to time his runs, knows the correct channels to move in, and can pick a pass. By 2010, his reputation was skyrocketing. A very important memory, and potentially the point where he may have realized that he was truly on the cusp of being up there with the big boys, was his debut in the Copa del Rey against Levante. His reputation in the youth ranks was so high that when he was substituted on in the 78th minute, the 18-year-old was given a standing ovation from the crowd. They saw him as the future. The game ended 8-0 to Real Madrid, with both Cristiano Ronaldo and Karim Benzema scoring hat-tricks. However, instead of one of them walking away with the match ball, the award was handed to Morata himself, signed by all of the Madrid first-team players on the day. Cristiano Ronaldo's message on the ball: "Relax, you're going to score a lot of goals. It's quite a cosign. 2013, as part of Carlo Ancelotti's side, had the promise to change everything for him. Real Madrid secured their 10th Champions League title against Atletico Madrid, of all teams, in the final. Alvaro Morata played 40 of the 120 minutes that ended in a historic 4-1 win over their city rivals. It was a momentous occasion for him, yet it was also a frustrating time. He would never receive guaranteed game time with Madrid given the circumstances. Cristiano Ronaldo, Gareth Bale, Karim Benzema, they were all ahead of him in the pecking order for starting positions. If he wanted more prominence, he would have to look elsewhere. Not a particularly tough task because he was only 21 years old and there were no shortage of clubs after him. Juventus was one of them. 20 million euros in mid-July of 2014. This is where I personally began to see the true value of Morata. I think a lot of people have forgotten just how good Alvaro Morata was for Juventus at this stage of his career. His holder play and ball carrying improved. He became a little bit more aggressive. His work rate was never an issue, but even that was shining through more and more. He was not only turning into a much sharper and refined product, but he was also showing early signs of a player with no nerves, a big game player suited to the grandest stage. In the 14-15 Champions League, he scored 2 goals against Dortmund in the round of 16, along with 2 against Real Madrid in the semi-finals, and an equalizer against Barcelona in the finals, where Juve unfortunately lost. And the following year, the Coppa Italia, he scored a brace against Inter in the semis, as well as the winner against Milan in extra time. And that's not even counting the games where he wasn't on the score sheet, but contributed immensely. He wasn't breaking scoring records or setting the world on fire in that sense, but he was influential in so many other ways. Allegri even put him on the wing due to how good his movement and positioning was. Back-to-back Serie A wins and deep Champions League runs that he played a great role in. But, and of course there is a but, he was behind Carlos Tevez and Fernando Llorente in the roster in 14-15. He trailed Mario Mandzukic and Paulo Dybala in the starting lineup for the 15-16 season. He was not the main guy, and he knew it, and he wasn't happy about it, which is what made the next move a tiny bit confusing. Time is like a flat circle, you see. I didn't mention it earlier on, but when Real Madrid sold him initially, they included a buyback clause, which was triggered in 2016 for 30 million euros. I guess he might have thought that since Benzema was soon to be 30, he would soon be able to claim that 9 role. After all, at the time, many viewed Benzema as the weak link of the BBC. Don't let what he eventually achieved make you forget that. As for Morata, yeah, Benzema was definitely on his last legs at the time. In any case, Real Madrid was home. It was where Morata made his first debut. From that perspective, it makes sense why he would want to return. Real Madrid in 16-17 may be the absolute prime of Zinedine Zidane's Real Madrid. All the usual mythical players, but most importantly, the most impressive bench in world football. Alvaro Morata, Mariano, Asensio, Lucas Vazquez, Mateo Kovacic, James Rodriguez. All of these players were more often than not coming off of the bench. The craziest part about all of this was that Morata scored 15 goals for Madrid in this season with only 26 games played. He only started 14 of those games. He picked up another Champions League, playing his 3rd UCL final in 4 years in 2017, and another La Liga title. But again, it wasn't enough. And to be fair, based on his performances, I can see why. He deserved to be the leading man at a club at this point. Quite frankly, he had earned it. The next move would look to rectify this injustice. And so begins silly season. In the summer of 2017, Manchester United looked like the place to make things right. They were in need of a number 9, so they turned their attention to Alvaro Morata. Mourinho was the coach that gave Morata his professional debut with Madrid, so there was familiarity there too. However, there was a problem. United initially wanted Antoine Griezmann, who was playing for Atletico Madrid at the time, and he was killing it. But Griezmann wasn't as convinced of the project as he had his own plans, it seems. When United looked to enlist the services of Alvaro Morata and placed a 60 million euro bid on the table, Madrid slapped a 90 million euro fee on him. 90 million for a player that only had 14 starts in the previous campaign. Sure, that didn't tell the full picture, but come on. However, the reasoning for this went deeper. 2 years prior, Real Madrid were interested in Manchester United's David De Gea. The negotiations went down to the final day of the window before the terms were eventually accepted by both teams. Except, United failed to send the necessary documentation to Real Madrid on time. The official story was that this was due to a fax machine malfunction. Yes, the 2 biggest clubs on the planet were using fax machines instead of email. Don't ask me, bro, I don't know. Madrid were determined to make the Morata deal difficult for United for this reason. There were a lot of moving pieces and there was a lot of smoke. And that's not even the half of it. In the end, United opted to sign Romelu Lukaku from Everton, snatching him away from Chelsea, who had him as their top target at the time. United were able to buy him for £75 million, 15 million less than the 90 that Chelsea were quoted, because Everton were unhappy with how negotiations collapsed over a drawn-out transfer saga with John Stones from 2015, ironically when Jose Mourinho was the Chelsea manager. And so, Chelsea then went ahead and scooped up Morata for £60 million. So many little pieces led to this transfer, you couldn't write this stuff. Now a Chelsea man, and also the leading man, for the first time ever, big things were expected. It's a real shame that he did not deliver. It also affects you to know your career also depends on the opinion of journalists, fans, directors, and sometimes they're not really qualified to judge. In my position, what matters is goals. Did he score? No. Una mierda de partido. This is unfortunately an occupational hazard for the career choice that Morata is in. However, I think that he also grossly overestimates how much power journalists and fans have, which probably explains why he pays so much attention to what people say, as we'll soon find out. The next 18 months of Morata's career ensured that he would be left with a sour reputation in England, and by virtue, much of the rest of the world, due to the Premier League's gigantic global reach. Chance missed after chance missed. Dive after dive. Terrible performances back to back to back to back. He was not having a good time at all. What was once a crowning trait of his timing of his runs, soon became a meme, as he was offsides multiple times per game. His nerves began to show as the press and the fans were on his case. It's clear that he was having confidence issues, probably mental health issues. 16 goals in 47 Premier League appearances over 18 months was not good enough for Diego Costa's replacement. He missed 27 big chances in that, the second most of anyone in that time frame. But that stat sticks out so much more when you see the amount of goals that was scored by the guy in first, Mohamed Salah, with 48. Eden Hazard started playing as a false 9, Olivier Giroud was brought in to carry some weight, Morata was in a dark place and he wanted to go far, far away. At Chelsea, I didn't want to leave the house anymore. It was hard. I thought I'd go far enough away so that I didn't have to have the pressure to always win. I didn't want to talk to anyone or meet people. And so he did exactly that. There was light at the end of the tunnel, and that light was in the shape of his boyhood club, Atletico Madrid. He was offered a loan deal and he took it without hesitation. And while his form has improved from time to time ever since then, he has regularly, inexplicably, fallen into slumps. Tons of game time as the main man, but never goes on an extended run of form and frequently misses opportunities. He's never scored more than 15 goals in a single domestic campaign. As a bona fide leading man for a club like Real Madrid, a club like Chelsea or Juventus, that's just not really good enough. Fast forward to 2024, he's off to AC Milan. His detractors in the media have only grown louder and louder, from promising young prospects to disappointing journeymen. In defense, Morata has taken every opportunity to clap back. Perhaps the best way to describe his polarizing relationship with the media and with Spain, for that matter, comes from talking about the national team. Similar to his youth career at club level, Alvaro Morata enjoyed a very fruitful youth career with Spain. He won the 2011 Under-19 UEFA Euro and the 2013 Under-21 UEFA Euro. He was the top scorer in both competitions. But with the senior team, up until very recently, it's been mostly negative. From not being selected at all to crashing out early in major competitions. The 2020 Euro, Spain's squad selection was controversial to begin with. Iago Aspas, the best Spanish striker by most accounts, was not even called up for the tournament. Gerard Moreno, who was believed to be second best based on form, was left on the bench for Morata to start. Morata had a few terrible performances in this comp and the fans began to talk about it. However, many Spanish media outlets backed Morata almost to the point where it seemed like there was an agenda. It's believed by some that this had something to do with his father, who was now his personal manager. Remember earlier when I said that he was a prominent director in the Spanish media game at some point? It's believed that he had or has quite a lot of pull on what gets printed about his son in the media. Now, from what I could ascertain, there is no actual evidence of this, of course, but it's a theory that some have chosen to run with. There were even posts from Marca outright calling the fans stupid for criticizing Morata and thinking they know what's best for the team. Morata himself decided to antagonize the fans after a performance versus Poland, including missing an open goal. They booed Torres, so imagine their intellectual level. He compares himself to Fernando Torres and insults the Spanish people. These comments went down well. Spain were eventually knocked out by Italy, who went on to win the tournament. And even though Morata scored the equalizer that helped the game along to penalties, he was one of those that missed a crucial pen that ensured Spain's defeat. The reaction towards Morata was so harsh in Spain that his family began receiving threats. Only idiotic fans do this sort of thing, don't do this sort of thing, but it gives an indication as to why he's so critical of fans, I imagine. The media around Morata for the 2024 Euros spilled out nothing but positivity. Captain fantastic, improvements beyond belief, and exactly what this relatively young squad needed. And I don't think that there were many arguments to this. I personally spoke very highly of him in my own coverage of the Euro. He wasn't a striker, but for the role that he was put into the team to play, he was immaculate. And even further, thanks to The Athletic and a few other sources, we've been able to get a sneak peek into his role as the captain behind closed doors. He supposedly advocated for the backroom staff to receive higher bonuses. He gave out golfing lessons to teammates, made sure everyone was represented on the team's music playlists, and trained in training sessions where only those who didn't start previous matches train. For all intents and purposes, outside of the pitch, it seems there's nothing to suggest that he isn't a good guy. However, trouble in paradise. The man is getting praised left, right, and center, but he still comes out with the opening quote of this video right before the semi-final. There is no love for anything or anyone in Spain. If Spain ended up losing the Euros, I think a lot more would have been made of that comment right there. But Spain did win, and quite frankly, for Morata's sake, I'm very happy that that was the case. Due to the inconsistency, the backhanded comments about not caring what fans think and more, it seems that he's built up quite a lot of ill will for himself over the years. People don't forget. And if I'm being completely 100% honest, perhaps the levels of hate he gets are excessive. But at the same time, if you want to be good at anything, particularly football, you should not care about the public's opinions and just get on with it. Significantly less people would clown him if he just let his performances do the talking. It's just the fact that he's been so vocal about it and has shown his insecurities. It encourages people to keep piling on. Alvaro Morata is an incredibly talented player, truly. He's been unbelievably successful, despite the critics, but still, it seems that he hasn't been truly happy in some time, and that is a shame. He is a seasoned pro, so you'd think that he'd be used to the chatter by now. At the end of the day, nothing can take away what he's achieved. Hopefully, he internalizes that. And there we have it. Let me know what you all think about Alvaro Morata. That's all for me today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you're having a great day. Cheers, and I will catch you in the next one.